silence. If you could stand and we could have a minute's silence in honour of Norman, I'd be grateful. Okay, thank you very much. So if we could now move on to apologies for absence. I know that Mark Ashwell is unable to be with us this evening, and he has sent his apologies. I know Catherine's online, so I think that accounts for all of the executive members, so I don't think there are any further apologies. If we can move on to the minutes of the previous meeting. Is everybody happy that I sign those as a true and accurate record? That's very encouraging. Thank you. I'll just do that now. Thank you. Are there any declarations of interest on the items, or the item on our agenda? I don't believe anyone has an interest to declare. Good. I'm going to make a brief statement, if I may. First of all, I want to take the opportunity of this executive meeting to thank Jordan Montgomery for his service as an executive member for the Environment and Climate Emergency. Jordan has been obliged to step down due to ill health and work pressures, but I hope when his situation improves, he may return to the executive. And I want to thank Catherine for stepping up to take on Jordan's executive responsibilities. She comes to the role with a wealth of relevant experience and expertise, and I know she will be a great asset both to the executive and to the council. Next Tuesday evening, Wokingham's Community Vision 2035 will formally be launched by the volunteer steering group that's overseen its development. This represents an important moment in what could be described as a quiet revolution. The community's vision marks a radical departure from the way in which the council has traditionally engaged with the public it serves. In the past, the council produced strategies and then consulted on them. The idea of the community's vision is to bring in the public at the beginning rather than at the end, to empower the people who live and work in the borough to help chart the course ahead. The steering group formed to carry forward the work of the community's vision includes many different stakeholders from the voluntary and charitable sector, business, faith groups, health, the University of Reading, and the Youth Council. Council officers support the steering group, and I try to attend the meetings whenever I can, but this is very much a community-led effort. The chair is Nick Fellows of Wokingham Volunteer Centre. And I want to thank council officers who've given such great support in facilitating the process while allowing the steering group to set the course. And I'm enormously grateful to Nick and to his colleagues for their hard work and commitment over many months. Without their dedication and enthusiasm, we would not have made the incredible progress that we have done. Last October, the Borough Council formally committed to playing its part in realising the vision's ambitions. And we've already started to do so with the vision referenced in the new local development plan and exerting a major influence on the council plan. That's the corporate expression of the council's priorities. At a more detailed level, we've already sought to protect valued green spaces and make public transport more accessible, two of the themes identified in the vision. And there's much more we're doing over the coming years. But the vision is not just a route map for the council. Its objectives, if they're going to be realised, will need others to be committed to helping. And several local organisations have endorsed the vision, and I hope next week at the launch event, many local groups will show their support by pledging to address one or more of the vision's ambitions. And I think the main message here is that we can all do our bit. Every contribution, however small, whether as groups or individuals, will help make Wokingham Borough an even better place to live and work. Right, we now move on to public question time. And there is only one public question, and it is from Peter Humphreys, who is a familiar figure to us. And Peter, would you like to ask the question you've submitted?
A year ago, surface dressing was applied to Wiltshire Road, north of its junction with Rectory Road, which it was claimed would prolong the road surface for a further 10 years. As the road was in good condition at the time, this was a puzzling use of limited resources. Even more puzzling, that the section either side of the junction with Bishop's Drive, which was probably ranked in the top 10% of the borough in terms of its condition, has suddenly dropped into the bottom 10%. Whole sections of newly applied surface have simply worn away in record time. Are you able to explain how the Highways Department managed to destroy a perfectly good road in record time?
Peter, thanks very much for your question. Well, the scheme at Wiltshire Road between Rectory Road and Belfoundry Lane was completed 9th of July 2022. The treatment used a product called Grip Fibre, which adds both protection to the carriageway surface, sealing it from water, whilst also enhancing skid resistance. The road scored highly in 2022-23 programme selection, and our scanning data the year after the treatment indicates a positive improvement for road condition. It's not uncommon for some road treatments to have material failures. This can be for a number of reasons and may affect the entire treatment or just part of it. Our engineers identified defects occurring in the treatment at Wiltshire Road and issued a defect notice to the contractor. The discussions are ongoing with them to come to return and to remedy the defect. This work will be carried out at no cost to the authority. I hope that answers the question.
Peter, I'm sure you'll have a supplementary.
I'm pleased to hear it's not going to cost the taxpayer any money, but as you say, entering into negotiations implies it could go either way. So how much could it cost the council if the contractor decides or somehow finds a loophole to get out of it?
As far as I know, the discussions are just about when it can be done, because there's obviously a programme of works, it's got to be slotted back into the work. But if there's any difference to that, I can find out and give you a definitive answer in writing, if that's okay.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter.
I've got a cold and I need you to.
I was going to say, you'd be welcome to stay, but I'm not sure you'd be here for very long anyway. Anyway, thank you very much. Good night. Right. I assume, Priya, there are no councillor questions? No? Okay, thank you very much. So this is very much Martin's evening, because we're now in a moment going to move on to the Bus Service Improvement Plan delivery plan. But before I ask Martin to present the report, Can I just remind colleagues that there are some papers in your agenda that are in what we call part 2. In other words, they're not papers that can be discussed in a public setting because they contain confidential or business sensitive information. I don't believe there's going to be any necessity for us to go into part 2, and I would very much like to avoid going into part 2. So could I just ask all colleagues to bear in mind, if they want to say anything that may relate to material in the pink pages in their agenda, we will need to go into part 2. And I would rather we didn't do that, if it's at all humanly possible. So if I think you're straying into that area, I'm afraid I will stop and we will go into part 2, but I'm hoping we won't need that. So Martin, could you just present the report to us?
Right, the bus service improvement plan. We've been successful and been allocated £1.4 million of bus grant funding for the year 25-26. To ensure we receive this funding, we need to submit a delivery programme to the DfT by the 31st of March 25. The decision was taken on 27th of March. The decision taken on 27th of March will be critical to the release of this funding. The delivery plan sets out how we propose to spend both the capital and the revenue elements of the funding. As I'm sure you can appreciate, there are many schemes which we would like to fund and deliver as it would give real benefit to our residents, but we have to identify just a few. We have prioritised schemes based on the Council's Marmot principles, discussions with over 250 residents, and considered those which are most deliverable within the grant funding timeframe and the available funding. In most cases, the schemes which haven't made the delivery programme for next year are those which require further work with our communities to ensure we deliver the right schemes to achieve the best outcomes. We will do this through the proposed community partnership and by undertaking a borough-wide transport review. This will allow us to be ready for future funding allocations in the years 26, 27 and beyond. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Martin. Are there any questions or observations anyone wants to make on this? I would just like to say that it is very, very welcome that we've got this additional sum of money to be able to spend on bus grants in particular. We need this kind of money to be able to subsidise bus services and make public transport more accessible to more people. The report before you sets out two options, essentially. One is do nothing, and the other is do the things recommended in the agenda. And clearly, we would, I hope, want to endorse option 2. And that's the first of the recommendations on page 13. We agree to the delivery of the schemes and measures identified in option 2. Then it asks us to agree to the spending of the bus grant funding and agree to the release and spending of some developer contributions amounting to more than £500,000 as detailed in our part 2 papers. So could I ask, if nobody wishes to comment further, can everyone indicate their support of the recommendations on page 13? Thank you very much. That's unanimous. And I think that brings the meeting to a close. Thank you very much.